considered to be a really, really good basketball prospect,
yes.
right, at the age of 14. But to have to live up to those standards, to have the same name, in fact, everyone already knows he's LeBron's son anyway, creates a lot of challenges. And I just want to read you one thing, and then I'll bring it to the table. Shareef O'Neal, who was Shaquille O'Neal's son, had a very interesting post on Instagram and relating to a very similar topic. This is what he wrote. He wrote, "Bronny, one kid I can relate to a lot. We both kind of have it the same way. Being the son of an NBA legend isn't easy, and to get all of this at a young age is a real challenge to adjust to. Bronny has it a little bit worse than I do, but the difference between him and I, he can back his up at such a young age. When I would get hate from people in the crowd at 14, 15 years old, I would choke up and wouldn't play my game, and I'm still getting the hang of it. It's all a journey. This kid has it all. I'm looking forward to seeing him kill it for the rest of his career." So I was really a heartfelt and I think really nice sentiment there. But let's talk about that for a moment here, because we all understand the culture of youth sports right now. The culture in the audience at youth sports is candid, and as one who has just been around it now a lot as a dad, I mean, it's disgraceful.
Yeah.
The stuff that you hear at AAU tournaments of kids who are much younger even than he is. But what do you make of what LeBron and in some ways what Shareef is saying?
Well, I feel what LeBron is talking about, not having a dad around and trying to be that parental figure for his son. The difficult part about youth, and I'm about to be a dad too, and I worry about this with my daughter, is that people say such violent things. And for a little, like, first off, we automatically, because LeBron James Jr. is in the NBA, one of the greatest players of all time, we talk about Bronny getting to the NBA, right? Like, that's a lot of pressure. Just that comment alone for a kid who's, 12, 13, 14-year-old to have, yet alone to deal with all the static that comes along with that pressure. I mean, the kids' games are packed. They're packed. So I think that the kid, in a way, it's a negative, but also in a way it can be seen as a positive, that he's learning how to deal with it and still thriving at that young of an age. But I just hate the pressure it puts on the young kid's shoulders to be this at such a young age.
Right. I always liken this situation to, it's an era change, right? Because Jordan has a junior as well, but social media didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist. So these guys become instantly famous. Like, Bronny is famous now. At 15 years old, he's a famous guy in America. Everybody understands where he is. They know who he is. All of the videos up. Here's the thing for me, though, and what I love about LeBron James outside of being a basketball player, the fact that he acknowledges that, the fact that he and his wife have brought this family up to understand the value of family and giving them significance. I think that's always the buffer between what we consider pressure for a kid like this, is that when he goes home, he gets reassurance. It's about you just being our kid, not being LeBron James' son. They know all the rigors and the pressures are going to come from that from the outside world. But I think that assurance that they are giving him at home is going to make a real difference. I think that's why he's thriving right now.
I think the conversation just brings up the broader topic as we're talking about amateur athletics, and we kind of cover it in a way because we have to follow the high school football player, the high school college basketball player, and it takes me back to the season, Jay Will, and we were there when Marvin Bagley at Duke was getting all this hate because they were like, oh, he's not playing because he's soft and he doesn't want to be a good teammate and XYZ, and he's only, 18 at this time, and he was probably already receiving some criticism when he was 16, 17. So think about how much the criticism is amplified if your dad is LeBron or your dad is Shaq. And we talk about KD all the time, but same thing for him. Like, he has been talked about and criticized one way or another, positive or negative, since the time that he was a 5-star recruit, since he was at Texas. And so when we start seeing them clap back, or you start to see the crumble of some people's confidence or the need to voice their opinion and shape the narrative, it happens because they've been stars since the time that they were 13.
The one piece of this that I don't really know how to put into the equation is that in this day and age, and my kids are not star athletes, but they are that age, is people of that age, people of that generation are so accustomed to everything they do being on some level public anyway. They videotape literally everything they do. Everything they do is on Instagram stories and on Snapchat and things like that. And while the world isn't reacting, everyone in their social circle is reacting and seeing it. I think that there may be a little bit of a callus built up to that. I'm not sure if that's the right word, you know what I mean? But they're a little more accustomed to that. So I understand what LeBron is saying. It's just another indication of what a good guy he is, that he's sensitive to that and understands how that's impacting his son. But I actually think that the generation of which Bronny is a member is very accustomed to everything they do being scrutinized one way or another, even if you're not famous.
I would actually argue the reverse, that it's making them more sensitive. And I say that because I'm going to campuses, and there's a couple of schools that have inserted like mental health as a part of just the health of their student athlete, because they've had 4 and 5 suicidal ideations that come up during the course of a school year. So now they've had to change the way that they are talking to their student athletes, the way that they provide support. And I believe it is the result of social media, and you're playing the comparison game. Comparison's the thief of joy. You're constantly being criticized and commented on. So in some ways, yes, they're used to it, but in a lot of ways, I think it's knocking them down.
And I'm glad that we're moving in a direction where we could talk about mental health. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have that stigma associated with it anymore. But here's what I will say about LeBron. In a world as a star athlete, your world becomes warped. Your sense of reality is no longer the same as everybody else's. So there can be an inclination to become a little bit more defensive or isolate your kid. I love the fact that he just treats his kid like he's a regular. He shows up to games.
Yeah.
He coaches them. He has friends over to the house. So as much as he can do the best job to normalize little Bronny's life, I mean, that's a positive too.
You make a great point, because it goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about KD. I think LeBron does a great job at picking his battles, right? You don't hear from LeBron a lot. He learned from the Miami situation. Maybe that wasn't the best look. You know what? I'm not saying anything until I sign with the Lakers. Like those type of experiences that LeBron has went through, his son can directly watch that and say, hey, Dad, this is the move, that's not the move. I think he's doing a tremendous job with his son. I agree totally with you with how he's building them.
And just to finish it up, there is a whole show to be done on what you mentioned,
No
which is because
question.
I don't know if the answer is there more depression and anxiety based on the social media, or are we just more sensitive to it and aware of it now than we have been in the past? I think it's actually it's a larger topic than sports and an important one to get to.